evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, September 9th, 6 p.m. Town of Grand Rapids Municipal Building. First item on our agenda this evening is a public hearing. Application to Ron Jevnik, 1210 Grove Avenue, Wisconsin Rapids, for a conditional use permit. Construct a 48 by 80 warehouse in B1 commercial zoning at district address of 4238 80th Street South, known as Safeway Bus. The building is designed to be, as I read, just for cold storage at this time. We'll have concrete floor and appropriate electrical if required, because it's commercial, correct, Chief? Has to have electrical for commercial, correct?
Yeah.
Don't have to? I thought it did. Well, anyway, those wishing to speak against the conditional use permit, please identify yourself and speak. Again, anybody wishing to speak against the conditional use permit for Ron Jevnik Safeway Bus? Third and final time, anybody wishing to speak against Ron Jevnik's 48 by 80 warehouse in B1 zoning? Hearing none, anybody wish to speak in favor of it?
Shut up.
We would expect that would be the case.
Mr. Chairman, Arnie, it is what you said, cold storage. It's not for bus storage, it's strictly for everything else that I haven't got room to put in.
All right, anybody else wish to speak in favor? Hearing no other comments or requests, I'll close that public. Is there one more? Go ahead, Mr. Hatt.
I don't have anything to say against it, so I will say that I think this is a good idea and I don't have any problem.
All right, okay. And again, anybody else wishing to speak in favor? If not, I'll call the public hearing closed. We'll move on to the next item, which is application of Michael and Wendy Flory, 5756 County Trunk T, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, to rezone 6.61 acres currently zoned agricultural from R2 resident to R2 residential parcel 07-01021AA, section 35 T222, range 6 east, and this is on, for reference, Taylor Avenue. Is that correct? I believe.
That's correct.
Okay. And this is strictly rezoning with the for the 6 point parcel of it. And that overall parcel is about how long, just for reference? Another 2.5 acres up left of that parcel. I
Yeah,
guess.
and that's,
Okay.
that's gonna be adjoining the other
Right.
lots, so making one large lot of 5 acres.
And one of about 2.5.
Yeah.
All right, but anybody wishing to speak against this request for comprehensive plan review in order to rezone the 6.21 acres in parcel 07-01021111AA. It's a lot to get out. Anybody wish to speak against it? Third and final time, anybody wish to speak against it? Hearing none, anybody wish to speak in favor of the rezoning from Ag to R2? Other than yourself?
Oh,
Should we assume we would be in favor? Anybody else wish to speak in favor? One more time, anybody wish to speak in favor? Hearing none, I'll close that public hearing closed. We'll move to, we'll pick up those items in the appropriate spot on the town agenda. Would be, item 1 is to approve the agenda for the meeting. All agree, it's okay? Hearing none, no requests for removals. Move to item 2, approve the resolution 2014-28, conditional use permit Ron Jevnik, 1210 Grove Avenue, construct 48 by 80 warehouse in B1 zone district at 4230 80th Street South.
Chairman, I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Resolution.
Motion Bill, second Dan. Any other board discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed? No opposed. You're good to go. Item 3 is approval of resolution 2014-27. Michael and Wendy Flory, 5756 County Road T, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, rezoned parcel 07-01021AA, section 35T22, range 6 east, from ag to R2. No comprehensive plan for future land use map is needed.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2014-27.
All right, motion by Kathy, second by Patty. More discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed? No opposed. That carries.
There you go. Quite long.
Yeah, but it just threw my agenda away. No, I didn't. All right, item 4, we're on public comment. People wishing to address the board will be limited to 2 minutes each. Public input limited to a total of 30 minutes. Anybody wishing to speak to the board this evening? Mr. Head?
My name's Ron Hett, and I reside at 2521 Blueberry Lane. I'm here for all the agenda items, but particularly for agenda item number 19. I did obtain a copy of the proposed policy and reviewed it, and I only have one question on it. I'll reserve that if I could.
The
Question for when that item becomes on the agenda.
I'll acknowledge you.
And I think this is, I commend the board. I'd like the board to approve this policy. I think it's a reasonable and efficient way for the constituents to interact during the board meetings.
Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak to this board this evening? Yes, sir.
Carl Urban, 3140 Eagle Road. Is there going to be any discussion, public discussion on that fire truck purchase that possibly agenda 21 item? Or is that pretty much going to be closed once it gets here?
Well, it's a board decision, but something of this nature, I guess I'd be likely willing to open it up for small discussions.
Okay. That's the only comment I had was, we'd like to ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak to the board? Hearing none, I'll call the public input period closed and then move to item 5 is approval of minutes of the August 12th and August 26th town board meetings.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I will second.
Motion Kathy, second Dan. Any discussion, board members? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed? No opposed. All right. Item 6, approval of preliminary plot for Hunters Ridge subdivision, second edition with William and Cheryl Miles, 2410 Brook Lane. You have that set of documents in front of you. This would be the second edition. And Patty, was there any concerns at Planning Commission?
There was none.
Any comments of other board members? Hearing no request for comments, a motion to approve or deny would be in order.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
To approve?
Yes.
Okay, second by
Second.
Dan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed? It's always good to see more lots available. Certainly got it. I want to move to item 7, monthly reports, Fire Department, Chief Don Bone.
Evening, Town Board, Town residents. For the month previous, we are still at current staffing of 54 members. We did have a busy month. For once, the fire outperformed the EMS side of things. We did have 29 calls for service this month. 12 of them were EMS calls. On the fire side of things, we did have 4 motor vehicle accidents in our coverage area between Grand Rapids and predominantly town of Saratoga. We did have one carbon monoxide check at a residence in Grand Rapids. We did have one lightning strike of a house in Grand Rapids. Minimal damage structurally, but electrically there was a lot of damage that occurred inside the house. So I guess if you ever hear the lightning in the area, like I say, be aware that things can go off. We did have, during the course of the windstorm that we had come through our town, we had 6 different locations that we were dispatched to down trees and wires throughout the township. We didn't actually have any fires at any of the locations, but we typically get dispatched. We're the first ones to get called out to just about any event that happens in the town. So between scene securing of keeping motorists off of the down wires until we can determine if they're energized or not, we do spend a lot of time out in the community on those middle of those storm nights and stuff. So we did have 6 different locations we get sent to. Besides that, in the middle of, we did have false alarm out at the bank out in Kellner. A lot of times when the lightning, get the storms come through and stuff, it affects their alarm systems and stuff. A lot of false alarms to those structures. You don't know that, or if it was a lightning hit. So other than that, we had 2 other false alarms. One to Mid-State Technical College, burnt up a baked potato in a microwave. I guess if you put things in your microwaves, please attend them. So when they get overcooked, you're there to notice it before it's too late. And then we were called to a false alarm at the beer and cold storage warehouses up on 32nd Street. It was a mechanical failure. They're working on the new part of the system there and activated the alarm system. And then we were dispatched to 2 mutual aid calls, one at the Thermocold facility in Clover on Highway 54. They had ended up being a doorway in between the Orida plant and the Thermocold plant that started on fire, basically dead center in the middle of that facility. So they had multiple agencies there to get in, get the fire put out under control, but from what I heard, the entire freezer product and stuff ended up with the smoke damage and stuff was a total loss. So major expense to the company out there, but they had multiple fire departments out there. A lot of it was due to the location of it. They say it was just a very hard, challenging fire to get to. So we were out there, and then we were actually up to the village of Rudolph for the church fire up in Rudolph up there. We assisted them with our aerial. I'm sure you saw pictures. They were on one side, we were on the other. It was a very challenging fire. It was up in the attic, strictly of the church. Very hard to get at. Couldn't see anything from the initial attack because it was all up in the attic and up through the roof. So we did go up there, assisted the Rudolph Fire Department up there, and it was a very well, for the middle of a morning call, it's kind of a challenging time for everybody, but things went well up there, and like I say, hopefully we didn't save everything, but the vast majority of the essential things that the church had in their church were salvaged, so they were very happy with not losing anything other than the structure itself. And that was the extent of our calls for the month, our training for the month. Obviously, our RIT team is out right now. They're supposed to have training, but they're actually down at the Downtown Mill right now for a fire down in the old Downtown Mill in Port Edwards. So there's multiple agencies out there right now, and hopefully when they get done with that, they'll incorporate their training into it tonight. So the EMS is still working with the fire up at our house up on Buren, doing our EMS practice and stuff up there, doing our rehab for the firefighters. We were going to be working up at the house in Buren, but then, or actually on Eagle Road, excuse me, and but we decided to do our hose testing. Every year we have to pressure test all of our hose. So we'll be at the Ridges this Monday doing our hose testing over there with the Village of Buren. Rudolph Fire Department comes down and assists us with our hose testing, so hopefully it'll only take us 3 or 4 hours to get that accomplished. Other than that, we had our normal meetings for the month and entertain any questions.
Any questions of the chief? Hearing none, would you please follow up with the safety department report?
The safety department, we did have a lost time injury. One of the police officers was stung by a hornet wasp of some sort they were out on a call. Didn't realize they were allergic to bees at the time. Found out very much that they were, so they worked with the officer. He is now carrying EpiPens, so they say the hornets of I think we've been out on a half a dozen bee sting calls already this year, so they're everywhere, and if you are allergic to them, try to be responsible and carry the EpiPens because they can save your life. Or if you know somebody that is allergic to them, learn how to use them for them. So. Other than that, safety has been fine.
All right, anything else? No questions for that either? Hearing none, thank you very much, Chief. I'll call on Police Chief Mel Peterson for his monthly report.
Good evening, everyone. For the month of August, Grand Rapids Police Department handled 461 calls for service. This compares to 410 from August of last year. That's about a 12% increase in calls. Police Department issued 31 written warnings, 15 municipal court ordinance citations, and 38 traffic citations for the month of August. Officer Dan Trelka, he's one of our new part-time officers, regretfully accepted his resignation from the part-time police officer position. He was in the process of completing the FTO syllabus at the time. Part-time officer Seth told me he's proceeding very quickly through the FTO, very anxious to get started on his own, and we anticipate him completing the syllabus here in the very near future. He's progressing very nicely through that. On August 1st through the 9th, Officer Anderson was detailed out to Sturgis, South Dakota, and assigned to the Motorcycle Theft Task Force for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. That task force was comprised of personnel from Connecticut, California, Illinois, Nebraska, Ohio, and of course Wisconsin and South Dakota. And they were all working in conjunction with the Department of Justice, Division of Criminal Investigations for the state of South Dakota. Officer Anderson received that specialized training and properly identified stolen motorcycles, complete investigation of all recovered stolen motorcycles, and identification of suspects or organizations' criminal activity uncovered during the course of that investigation. In addition, he was able to liaison with agencies and departments from all around the country, and he brought back a whole wealth of knowledge that he's obviously sharing with the rest of the departments, the specialized training, and also being a part of that task force, we have access now to databases, national databases that we can assist us in any type of stolen vehicle, not only motorcycles, but vehicles, cars, campers, anything basically that has a serial number on it. There is a copy of the after-action report on the board members there. I'd just like to point out one here that's really interesting. An individual had a motorcycle in one of the many shows out there. Well, either during the show or sometime after the show, they noticed that the VIN number was filed off the motor. Well, they started checking into it, and they were able to raise the VIN number, and it came back to MMI, the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. And they didn't even know the motor was stolen. The reason they didn't know the motor was stolen because it was one of their employees. So, it just kind of highlights, the stuff you can get into when you're dealing with these stolen motorcycle parts and other motorcycles. The full chassis with the engines. Obviously, that was turned over, and I'm sure that instructor is probably seeking alternate. The other interesting thing is that motorcycle actually took first place in that particular show. So he started out as a big winner and probably ended up as a big loser. So
TV show, come on.
overall, just in summary, they had total motorcycles seized and investigated was 5. Out of those 5, 3 were the complete motorcycle, and the estimated value of those motorcycles was over $50,000. So it was very worthwhile for him to go out there and get that training and that experience and be able to bring it back here. Okay, moving on. Other training completed for this month. Officer Anderson, Officer Conover, and myself attended sovereign citizen training at Mid-State Technical College. This was conducted by the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Division of Criminal Investigation. And the training focused on identifying sovereign citizens, posse comitatus, other groups like that, and how you know when you may be encountering one. And then it was 8 hours of training, and other parts of the training focused on a kind of an update on other terrorist activities and updates on things that's going on out there. So very, very worthwhile training, and had some resident experts in there giving the class, so they had a wealth of information going on. Grand Rapids Auxiliary had another busy month. They assisted with the Corvettes of the North benefit cruise on August 2nd, the Encourage Foundation Community Picnic at Southwood County Park on August 6th, and the town of I'm going to butcher this, I know, Sesquicentennial on August 10th. Primarily, their duties included traffic and crowd control at these events. Once again, please thank them when you see them out there for volunteering, because sometimes, even though they play a big part for us, it sometimes goes unnoticed, so please thank them for that. Vehicles are doing well outside of normal maintenance, and that pretty much sums it up. Any questions?
Any questions or comments to the chief? Go ahead.
The training on the sovereign citizen, did that roll over into anything else, maybe like ISIS or any other groups of that nature coming across?
No, they didn't. ISIS was not really a topic of. Primarily, the big concern out there right now are, they refer to them as lone wolf terrorists, I guess is the best way of putting it. These are individuals who are sitting at home on their computer in their bedroom, and for whatever reason they start to sympathize. They don't go overseas for training. They don't have direct contact with individuals that are willing to train them. But for whatever reason, you know, they're sitting at home on their computer, and they start sympathizing with these groups that are out there, you know, and there's hundreds of them. But when they start sympathizing with them, then it's very easy for them, again, via the computer, go on Google how to make a pressure cooker bomb, or, you know, you name it, you can find how to make it. So a lot of the topics that they covered dealt specifically with these lone wolf type scenarios where, you know, he could be the guy down the street, you just never know it, or the kid down the street. So they're more concerned about that right now than they are with these well-known, well-trained terrorists, you know, coming into your area and trying to do something. So it's a big question mark. Those are the ones that fly under the radar, and you don't know until they hit.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Moving again back to regular agenda items. Item 8 is the approval of amended resolution 2014-11 for CSM. Approval from Jim Shaney clarifying road dedication being 17 foot with a 73 foot of road frontage. just a correction in the language of what we had in the last one in front of you. So with that, any questions, or is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the road dedication being 17 with 73 foot of road frontage.
That's resolution 2014-11 for the record. Is there a second to it?
Second.
Second by Kathy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, I'm an aye, and goodbye. How many times do we have that, huh? All right, we got it right. All right, item 9 is approval for Officer Drinkwine to attend training, field training officer, Fox Valley Tech, October 13th and 17th. Approximate cost of $1,013, and Chief, that's in your budget, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I'll make a motion to approve the training.
Motion Bill, second by
Second.
Dan. Any other discussions? Hearing none, again, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? No opposed. Approval of Chief Moe and Captain Mike Sawakowski and Jim Alford attending Fire Inspector Conference Green Bay, October 29th, November 1, 2014. Total cost approximately $1,677. Again, in your training budget, correct?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion Patty, second Kathy. Any further discussion? Again, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? No opposed. And 11, approval of resolution 2014-29, amending ordinance 29 regulating parking among highways to add no parking on either side of the street allowing on Woodrock Avenue from 1231 Woodrock Avenue to the west ending approximately 292 feet west of 10th Street. And it was attached to the, went on and attached, I believe, a fairly precise noting that because of the junction where it remains the town, we're basically listing it at 292 feet, which is there, because we have a section of the city and then there's just a tidbit of town there at the same time, yeah.
So the signs.
So the signs would start here and go to 12th Street. Okay?
And if you notice on the map, and then the only reason you got this map was it did show quite clearly where the town's boundaries were. That would be the,
Talk about this
east
piece.
corner?
It'd be
Yeah.
the southwest corner.
Southwest corner there is also part of the city.
This piece right here.
So what is in our ordinance right now was actually incorrect, that we had it going to 8th Street. So both number 7 and 8 would be the same, that they would stop at approximately 292.
And on the south side, that lot 07-00903, that's mid-state upholstery, which is mostly blacktopped already. Okay, so it's
I'll
pretty,
make a motion that we approve resolution 2014-29, regulate parking upon highway.
is there a second? Motion
Second.
Dan, second by Patty. Any further discussion? Bill?
So now signs will be erected, or are they erected before they?
No, they're not, they're on one side, so we'll put them on the other side once it's approved.
And we had the same ordinance for this for the north side or the south side?
This is for both sides now.
There was an ordinance though adopted for the other side?
Right, but we can,
We had it for the north side, which said that it ended on East Street, which was incorrect because the town doesn't go all the way to East Street.
so we have a new resolution which includes
So
item
I
7 and 8.
corrected that.
Item 7 and 8 makes this an entirely new resolution covering the same purpose.
And I understand that this was brought to us, the no parking signs, because of the residents who live in that area all wanted that,
Right.
On both sides.
both sides.
There was an exception, there was one that didn't want
Primarily all, I guess, it would be the, all right, further discussion? Again, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion as presented, say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? Motion carries, I believe. Unanimous, if I was correct, was that Bill?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you. And then, let's see, we're on back second page, huh? Item 12, approval of ordinance 2014-30 amendment ordinance 8 Town of Grand Rapids Animal Code. Primarily is to change the number of complainants needed to be issued a citation for animal disturbing the peace from 4 to 2 witnesses or by law enforcement. These are the changes that were recommended or kind of gone over with the legislative. Is there any concerns or questions? If not,
Like you had mentioned before too, that this, when I questioned earlier in the legislative meeting in regards to authorized animal hospitals and clinics, you had mentioned that it wouldn't include any clubs that may be in the.
no, the agricultural zoning for example, the Beagle Club is an agricultural zoning, and it's just like whether they had animals or cows or chickens or whatever, they would be exempt from the ordinance.
From the citations.
Yep.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2014-30 as indicated.
Motion Patty, second.
I'll second.
Dan, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Bill's opposed. Okay, thank you, Bill. Item 13, approve resolution 2014-31, amending ordinance 10, regulating speed limits to add all current streets that have not been in the ordinance, noting no speed changes have been changed. The ordinance that we have in front of you now, we've, with Judy's and Peggy's help, I believe, have all listed all the roads that were not directly in the ordinance, so now we are as legal as we think we can be on road speed limits for the officers.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2014-31 and thank all of those who participated probably in the last 3 years.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion, Bill, second Dan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? Carries. This would be item 14, approve resolution 2014-32, amending ordinance 7, regulating discharge of firearm bows and arrows and other devices, and bringing the ordinance up to state statutes and land usage. No changes or restrictions to the areas were made. Questions, comments, or motion?
So I understand it was just ad legislative, it was cleaning up the reference to the statutes.
Correct.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2014-32 as presented.
The motion by Kathy, is there a second? Second by Arnie. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Bill?
So my understanding now is in a residential zone, somebody that has a deer, what do you call it, target in the backyard can't shoot at it with their bow and arrow.
I don't think so.
Yes. That's what you guys requested, was that bow and arrow could practice in their yard as long as they have the permission of the of any buildings within 100 yards of them. That's what the change to discharge of weapons, Part A was. As long as they have anybody within 100 yards that has a building, they can practice bow and arrow in their backyard
With permission.
with permission.
Okay. Thought?
That's primarily what the state statutes were leading to.
But the state statutes for hunting
Your word.
say that you have to shoot in a downward,
Like from a tree.
from a tree stand.
Mhm.
And you have to be either outside of 100 yards or have permission of the owner of the building to hunt. So we went above that and said you may practice to a target.
With
With
permission.
permission.
With permission,
permission.
it does clarify that in here.
Any further discussions?
And I, yeah,
Go ahead, Bill.
are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
Patty then?
Okay, I was going to Actually, I'm going to vote no on this because of the fact that I feel that there are some additional pieces of land that I would have liked to have added to it. And after review of the map too, this would include the landfill site. And then the other piece of property that I was questioning about was the 48th Street, Grand Rapids property owned. Having that.
Okay.
Ernie? Can you say something?
Yes, you may, Judy. Because the captain may I, is that what it is?
Yes. And Patty, I understand what you're saying, but I also, because we have been bringing this up to date to statutes, if you don't agree with what's presented here right now, I can understand you voting no. If you agree with this but want additional changes, that can always be done on another legislative meeting, another board meeting. You know what I'm not telling you that you have to, but a lot of the stuff that Dan suggested was bringing it up to current statutes. So that's what I'm saying, if you disagree with something that is being put in here or taken out right now.
As far as the verbiage goes, you're saying, and not the areas that were.
Right,
Okay.
or if there's area, that type of a thing, but otherwise, like I said, it can be brought up again. We can work on this 20 more times if you
If it takes that
want
long.
to.
Okay, well, I appreciate that understanding of that.
I had that question in advance because I missed the legislative meeting, so I called Judy to ask her to clarify to me how this was described as approving of the resolution and the amendment to the ordinance that clarifies the reference to statutes, but does not make any changes about what's restricted areas or not restricted areas, per se. And that could come forth at a future legislative meeting, so.
And with having the good maps and everything, you've got a little bit easier viewpoint of what is listed in here right now.
Okay, well, I appreciate that clarification for sure.
All right, Dan?
I thought we took out the part about practicing with a ball. That it was allowed, you didn't need the neighbor's permission. He was going to reword that so the practicing in your backyard was it, but the hunting, you did need permission. Did I mistake in that?
The hunting is state statute.
I mean, the hunting I understand, but if a guy wants to shoot his bow in the backyard, before season, whatever, I just don't think, I don't like that 100-yard
Well,
rule because.
Dan and I both misunderstood your intention at the
Okay.
legislative meeting then.
So yeah.
but my feeling on that is if I was shooting in my backyard and right behind me is another house, I would think I should have permission from them to be shooting towards their house. So, I'm in favor of the rule asking for permission. Now, if there's obviously a different spot for the target where you're likely not going to be, that could be conveyed to the neighbor. And you can say, well, if you put it over in this corner, that's not going to bother anything. But
And you have to get all neighbors
Within
within your
100.
property, right? I mean, so the ones on the front, the side, the back, correct?
Across the street.
If there's a building within 100 yards.
100 yards.
Is that how it's currently in our ordinance right now? So it's currently,
This is what
is
Dan-
this, right, the strike-through is what is currently there. So it's currently saying that you cannot discharge without the consent when within 100 yards. That's where 7.4 is.
Right, but
So-
A is the new part.
And A is
that
how he
also
revised
says-
it, but it's still, A is being a little bit more lenient, saying you can if you have consent.
Correct.
Well, it's kind of the same way, quite honestly. I mean, the way it was worded before, Dan, it looks like it's also said, no person without the consent may discharge within 100 yards. I'm not sure if it,
If you move to approve the amendment and strike out section A, then it would go back to whatever state statutes indicate. in state statutes where
It's the same thing, more or less.
same thing as more or less. So I mean, obviously there's, this has been in the review stage for several years, and we probably need to at least get the languages up to date, whether we totally agree with all the areas and innuendos we need to.
I also think that in talking about that section A, in reading section 66.0409 3B, number one, the discharge by lawful enforcement officers while in performance of the official duties, that pretty much is what 66.0409 3B is. So it's almost like that is a duplication of that. When I read that. Section 660409.
All right, any further discussion? All right, I think there's a motion to approve as presented on the table, and there was a second by myself. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the motion to approve 2014-32. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. And those opposed?
No.
We have 3 opposed, so the motion is denied. Resolution is not passed. We'll have to come back later in another format after it goes back to legislative. Okay, thank you. Okay, item 15, replacement of service doors at fire station. If you had a chance to take a look at the south door, it's got holes in the bottom of it. Front door does not shut. Matter of fact, yesterday morning, when I left the fire station, it did not lock. I went back and opened it again to see if it would lock when it closed. Did not lock again, so it had to be actually pushed to lock. So sometimes the security issue is there. We had a quote from FRP for the doors. The price was $2,580. Installation cost from the builders of 1884. Total cost to install. There was a question on the door that he installed here. Then Patty questioned whether the door seals were good enough. He replaced some seals today, put it on it, and whether they're perfect or not, I don't know, but they certainly look better than the door seal that was there. So this was a non-budgeted item. This was an item that would take us over budget on the building maintenance, but in looking at it, it certainly looks like it deserves to be replaced. Questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, for Patty and, I forgot who's on public buildings with you.
That's me.
Yeah.
So you guys had come last year to the board and we approved $19,950 for building maintenance type stuff. And last month you guys had said you were done with what needed to be done.
Right.
So that looks like that was $16,610. So
Right.
what are we doing with that difference?
Okay, still, I believe that's coming out of that budget yet will be the, unless it's coming out of the computer budget, but the cable, that project still, that was just completed today.
But you guys said it was supposed to come out of computer equipment.
Okay. And then there was that, and then, we're still working on the communication sign for out front of the building, the outside communication board. So that is still in the works.
That was approximately 500, was it?
Yes. And then, we just had repairs or slow drainage sink, that bill's coming, but I think that was under $100 that we had to have that fixed yet also.
Because I would see this as, I went over there as well and took a look at the doors and they're in significant need of repair or replacement. And I would see that $3,300 here that's unspent, better used towards the doors, at least at this point. And then as our budgets come in again closer to fall, looking at what we have left for, if we have to postpone the sign till next year, then we might have to postpone the sign. It's just my 2 cents.
And I haven't even had a chance to look at the door after the seal was, so actually, if we can, and then Dan also wanted to see comparable quotes, is what he had said last time when we were talking about it in the last meeting, which I hadn't had a chance to get.
What type of door were you proposing? Steel?
Steel.
You want to put a steel door?
I'm waiting my turn. Waiting my turn. I'm waiting.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interjected. Finish your comment, Patty.
So, actually, if we could do the comparable quote and give me an opportunity to inspect that, we can take a look at it next meeting. That's what I'm proposing.
Dan?
I had to talk to Mr. Lee on the phone quite extensively yesterday about the doors, and I also looked at the doors here, and like I said, that south one is in very poor shape. Another one, not so bad. I mean, it's bad, but not as bad. And he did talk about the fiberglass ones, and the amount of time he's been putting them in for, I want to say, at least the last 10, 12 years, and with very favorable luck, you know. As far as I asked him what the price difference would be between steel doors, the doors that we have and that, and he didn't give me an exact price, but he said literally it would be maybe a couple $100 a piece. That would be it. Because by the time you get the door, get the frame, get all the hardware, the window package, and then painting it.
We're not gonna do the hair part.
And then the painting it. Like I said, the price between them, he says, the difference is gonna be very minimal, so. The other thing he did say is, he says if we did not wanna go ahead with both doors, we could replace the one. He could adjust, he thought, that front one, and he says that maybe would fix it to get us through this year's budget, and then budget for next year to replace it, if that was an issue. But I also think we got that 3,300, and that's where it should come from.
Other comments? Bill, got anything? Nothing? No comment on it? Okay. Is there a motion to come forward, or?
I'll make a motion again to have the fiberglass doors installed from Lee Building and Remodeling as presented.
Motion by Kathy, second. Arnie? Discussions again? Any further?
Can we think about at least not trying to go over the budget part of it, where one door versus both, as he had indicated that he spoke with Lee, because too, I also forgot that the front light to the flagpole, you know, the front of the building, that was broken today too with so we'll have to look at electrical repairs. There is some electrical issues for lighting on the buildings that have not been resolved yet too.
So what would it cost to be a one-door half?
Well, you could say someone here, half is probably not so much on the labor, because typically if you do in quantity, you get cheaper.
Yeah.
All right, so for any further discussions?
What'd you come up with, Chris?
She was looking if we did half with the door, because we have 3,300
These
in that
this
one.
is for both, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got approximately 1,300 for the door and 900 to install it, so about 20.
1,800 to install two doors.
Okay, so 1,500 left out of that line item. And you're,
Because we've got electrical
and then
that
if you,
really should
even
be
if you,
taken care of.
right, even if you took out the 500 for the sign, then you just saying, because that's what you had told us, and another 100 for, what was the other?
It was outstanding bill for the.
So you have $900 left, yet, after all those things besides the flagpole electrical issue yet, so.
And the front light of the building, which I can't remember how much that is.
So Dan, you had said that you spoke with these,
Mark? Yeah.
with Mark, and he can adjust that front door so that it closes properly.
Was his comment that he can or he thinks he can?
Well, he says he can.
So if we were to.
So I don't know once he gets into it, if he, but our conversation was, yeah, he thought he could. He wasn't over there, looked at, this was just a phone conversation that we had.
Well, it's perfectly if your son is no.
Yep, and that's, I told him, and he went into a long, detailed explanation of
Why that happens?
of why that happens, you know.
Sun comes up,
It's a
sun
steel
goes down.
door, the inside is warmer than the outside, and that, and I said, all right, Mark, got it. And,
All right, well, anyway, if motion fails, then the motion can come forward, I guess that's the way government works. Any other comments on the motion to approve? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
you know,
3 nays. All right. Any other motions come forward? If not, the
I'll
item
make a
drops.
motion that we replace one door on the south side of the building and that, and have Mark take a look in adjusting the, I guess it'd be the east door and fixing it.
I'll second that motion.
Motion Dan, second by Bill. Any further discussion?
My only discussion, I mean, I'll vote in favor of that because we need that door
Yeah.
fixed. But I hope that if Mark is not successful in fixing it, that comes back to this board to
Sure that it
discuss
will.
that east side door.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other comment here? None in your favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm an aye. Was there any opposed? No opposed. All right. We're going to move forward on replacing the south door.
Get the direction.
I wanna
You don't
hear
want the
that,
wrong
Dave.
door.
Okay, discuss committee structure for the development of a 3 to 5 year strategic plan for the fire department. Items on there because we had some conversation with our attorney, and if we're gonna have all board members be in there, he strongly suggested that I appoint a committee and call it the strategic fire department plan, appoint somebody to that, and appoint all supervisors to that committee. And naming 6 firemen, and if we have 5 from the police and fire commission that would honor, I would appoint all of them. So that's my thought, is I'd like to appoint Kathy Elf to be the lead of the 3 to 5 year fire department study, and I would appoint all supervisors and 6 fire department representatives and the police and fire commission as actual members of the committee. Is there any discussion to my, is there a second to my motion?
I'll second it.
And discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? Okay. Personnel committee to present possible employee self-assessment process. Kathy, and I several months ago started this, and Kathy, you can
Well, it's
bring
not
that-
too much different than what we had shared with the board a couple months ago. The only difference is, 2 months, maybe 3 months already, that when we shared this with the board, this is a tool that could be used for performance evaluations. And then the board was asked to provide some additional input because we knew we'd go back one more time to personnel committee. When the personnel committee met, the only change we made to it is that instead of calling it a Town of Grand Rapids performance evaluation, it's a self-assessment peer review. So it's just a form, if approved and adopted by the board, that can be a tool used for employees to self-assess where they're at. If the personnel committee were to have some periodic performance reviews with employees, it's a tool that could be used that both the personnel committee and the employees could reference to just have a conversation, a coaching conversation. It isn't something that's going to be, well, you're a 1 or you're a 2 or you're a 3 and here's the consequence of it. It's more to have a coaching conversation. So
any comments to it?
Very nice.
If not,
Very nice.
we'll put it in, it's in its final stage, we'll adapt it into our personnel.
would we need a
Handbook.
motion for that?
I would
that
probably
respect?
say-
I'll make a motion to approve the Town of Grand Rapids self-assessment peer review to be added to our employee handbook.
Motion by Patty, second by Dan. Any other discussion? William?
I just wonder why a motion on this.
I'm not sure, Bill, but
If we want to change it, then we gotta go through this again. I just think it's a tool. It's the same thing we use in the county court, and that didn't go through the county court.
The reason I asked for a motion is so that that would show that there was or board consensus that this was a form that we want to adopt. It's not a form that was there that we're changing. It's like any other type of form that we might use within the town. Otherwise, I could bring a form tomorrow and ask that it's just added. And so I just wanted to show committee consensus or not, that it's a tool that would be useful to the town.
all right, does that answer it, Bill? Or at least what her answer is. Is there any other comments you wish to make?
Sort of makes, are you done, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. That makes me think about, is there a part that we have to refer to anything in the employee handbook, do you know, that we may want to reference this? I didn't
Not
think
that
about
I'm
that
aware
part.
of. Not that I'm aware of. But we can look to where it would most appropriately make sense to add. And it's not a required form, we're not asking for that, and it wasn't as part of the motion, it's just a tool to add.
To the book.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? The motion is to put it into the personnel handbook. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion approved, one dissension. Item 18 is another one out of the Personnel Committee, the possible organization report chart. Kathy spent some time on this, kind of laying out the lines of progress and reporting to it. And Kathy, if you want to touch anything on that?
Yeah, I'm not looking for any action tonight because this is the first that the board got to see this.
Thank you.
It's just a draft. I also want to be able to at some point get input from employees as well. The only reason this had been brought forth from the Personnel Committee was a while back when there was a situation within a position that was here at the town, that there was a question then of who does that person report to, and it really wasn't any direction or any visual of any sort given. So I took the obvious where the PFC does oversee the fire and police departments, and we have a personnel committee which would oversee appointed positions, appointed positions, and then in the past, the clerk / personnel administrator also had overseen the public works, the building inspector, and parts of the office staff, which is why there's a dashed line there, because the office staff as well reports directly to the police chief for police reporting and work that they do. So I'm not at this point looking for any, other than just to open up some conversation here, if there's anything you want to add today, or just to be thinking about it so that we can bring it back and have more thoughtful discussion on what we should have, if anything, and if it's a consensus from this board that we don't need to have an organizational reporting structure, then it goes to the wayside. But I just wanted to share with the public what the personnel committee had started.
Any comments? Otherwise, I'll just table it for, go ahead, Bill.
Yes, I would like to see this, being looked at the beginning of 2015. Just because of what, we haven't had a chance to look at it. And I see some questions that I have on it. I think after budget, then I think would be a good time to do this.
All right. All right, item 19 is an item that I talked about at the last, not the last, but the second to last town board minutes, meetings, that I would develop a policy for public input and maybe make it a little more easy just for you folks to share it with me. So the policy applies to town board, all town board meetings unless it's specifically announced at the beginning of the meeting by the person chairing that meeting. The procedure will be the public input limited to the time period designated on each town board agenda. Public input period is only for input items listed on the agenda or for items not on the agenda that a citizen would like to present to the board. If board discussion and/or action is needed on a non-agenda item, it will be considered for a future agenda. Each person speaking during the public input period will state their name, address, and subject of their input. Input should be brief, preferably to less than a minute, but in no case any longer than 2 minutes. Total public input period will not exceed 30 minutes unless the board by majority votes allows otherwise. No public input during regular agenda items from the public directly related to the agenda. Let me read that again because I messed the word up there. There will be no public input during other agenda items except for people directly related to the agenda item or their designated spokesman or representative. The board may at any time during the meeting choose to ask for or receive input from the general public on selected agenda items at the discretion of the chair, subject to approval of the majority of board members. Public input in the meeting is out of order unless it follows the above rules. There will be no citizen debate between citizens or with board members from the floor. All comments and the questions shall be directed to the chair. Board members and the general public will be allowed to follow the rules of conduct. To be courteous, civil, do not argue, debate, or accuse others, do not interrupt others. A citizen may request to speak at the end of the regular meeting. Discussion will be limited only to what was discussed on the agenda and not for 2 minutes. Total discussion not to exceed 16 minutes. Now why 16? Because it's divided by 2, I guess. So I didn't say 15. That was my take. This was quite frankly another town's set of rules that I tweaked to what I thought was a representative of how I felt and what I felt the rest of you felt when we discussed it at the last meeting. So is there questions or concerns?
I think it's a well-written policy, and it does give opportunity for the public to be involved.
Right.
I agree.
And just,
Yes, Bill.
Can I ask on,
Mm-hmm.
keep on roughly bullet number 7? Well, let's just say, I would like one of the chiefs to comment on this, asking you permission,
Mm-hmm.
of course.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what that says, or only you can ask them? I mean,
No, I would take that that if you wanted to recognize somebody on the floor, you would address the chair, and the chair would say, is that okay with the majority of the board? That's the way I take it.
this is, okay.
That's the way it should be, correct?
Yes, that's the way we have it.
and if we adopt this policy, we're gonna change the word chose to choose, just so that you know that that is just a typo that we're gonna fix.
Okay. Can't blame the typewriters anymore.
I would like
We're check.
Mr. Head
Spell
to ask
check.
his question.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, would the board allow me to address Mr. Chen?
Let's do that, yeah.
All right, Mr. Head, you may speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ron Hatton, presided at 2521 Beaver.
So far, so good.
Okay. So my only, and hey, this is great. This, I really, you know, I want you guys, I hope you guys will adopt this. I think this is really sweet. But the only question I had was the bullet, it's number 6 bullet. There will be no public input during the other agenda items except for those people directly related to the agenda item. Now, and I don't know what I really don't know what that means, but, and that's what I'm asking. Now, when I asked before the meeting if you'd allow me to speak on this item, you said, I guess that's what happens here. And now, I'm not related to that item. I mean, I'm not asking for a,
No, but then the other bullet, if you would follow, is if Mr. Glendenning wished to recognize you to address it, he could address the chair. The chair could then ask the board if they all agree.
okay.
Bingo, bango.
I mean, will this also work like happened tonight, where I says, hey, I'd like to speak on agenda item number 19 during the first open comment period? Is that?
Sure.
Will that work? Is that what you intended?
Sure, you know,
Good,
if this
good.
is something that you had concern on what you want,
Yeah.
you are now related to that, right?
Okay, that's what I.
Okay, Bill, any more?
And this happened to me at a meeting in which somebody asked me if I would I asked the chair for that person to speak. And we did not have this in the rules. That person got up and spoke, and spoke, and spoke. So there has to be the chair and the county board, of course, Lance told him to stop. He would be removed. And I think, that should be in here. You have the authority to stop somebody too, because they can get that floor, just hang on to it, because there's nothing that says they can't have. But everything else is a time limit. But if I allow him to speak, he can just keep speaking.
Well, if you got to the 30 minutes or the 16 minutes, you'd be done.
Yeah.
No, they're allowed for 2 minutes, Bill.
Okay, okay.
The timing is what kicks them from being able to take the floor forever.
Well, I can see what, I'm assuming, I think I'm on the same page as Bill, that what if, not during the introduction period,
Yeah.
during the agenda item, and we already had said we're gonna let Ron talk, so we're letting him talk, and 15 minutes later, we're sitting here and all of us are wondering like, who's gonna stop him from talking? There is, according to this, there's no time limit, so that does make, it might need an additional bullet or just the added clause at the end that the chair has the authority to cease or
Cease
to
debate.
limit the the discussion, appropriately or so, there should be something, I see where, is that where you were coming from, Bill? Because that's what I was thinking.
Judy, are you reading something down there?
So after the one that says the board may at any time during the meeting choose to ask to receive input, if we put another bullet point that says the 2-minute limit applies to
Very good.
discussion
Additional bullet or something like that,
during agenda items
yeah,
unless
Wave or something.
waived by the
By
chair.
the chair.
yeah, that would make sense.
Does that work for everybody?
Sounds good.
Sounds fair, don't it? All right, is there a motion to approve as Judy will rewrite it?
I'll make a motion that we approve it with the revisions.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, thank you. And I want to thank Judy for her help in interpreting
And
what
Chris.
I was writing, Chris, what I was scribbling on the notes as I handed it to him. That was 19, right? All right, on track. Town board to call special town meeting for November 20th for the purpose of approving the minutes from the annual town meeting, approving the total 2015 highway expenditures, adoption of the 2014 tax levy payable in 2015, and setting the hourly rate to be paid to town employees who are also board members. We need to set that special meeting, so is there a motion to call for a special town meeting for that date?
I'll second.
Bill and Kathy. Any further discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Okay. Item 21 was the item that we put onto the agenda. That was, and I apologize that it was rather quickly, but we got into a set of circumstances over the last of the weekend where we found what we deemed a fairly decent used ladder truck that has 17,000 miles on it and very low usage overall compared to our very well used ladder truck that has 67,000 miles on it. The number of runs per year was somewhere between 40 and 60 calls for service that they did on the fire side of it. This is the town of Caledonia, who has Campbellsport. Yeah, I was talking to Caledonia on another issue earlier. Campbellsport Fire Department has a new ladder truck coming in. This would be a 105-foot ladder truck that they have coming in. This is for sale as of approximately April. We have taken to there, we had the chief, myself, our town leadman, and Mike Ski was on a visual trip to it. As you see the results of the pictures, there are literally all kinds of pictures. We saw relatively little problems with it that were no major rust areas, although there was a few here and there that would need to be addressed which could make the life of it come available last for quite a bit longer. So I'd like to present it to you, the cost of this truck. They were asking $259. We had a discussion with them, and they would leave the suction hoses and the stuff that's in what they call the trade-on, is that what they call it, or?
It's basically the ground ladders, all the suction hoses, the lighting, the hand lights and stuff.
Even actually including the flashlights they were gonna leave because their new truck was coming with it. And they would take a firm price of $250,000 for that. We do have costs, representative costs of what the new ladder truck, and I believe we're in the high sevens. 780 if we were to actually purchase a new ladder truck. It's kind of the belief of myself and those that did visit, look this over. We have a very good report from Pierce as to the surface of it, and from Red Power that did most of the service on it, that everything is good. The truck just had its DOT inspection, and also while we were there, they're actually doing their ladder tests on it, which all was satisfactory. We did take it for a drive. The chief and Mike both drove it. Does look to be reasonable. We have about a 10-day window that they were able to hold it for us. Obviously, it's going to be first come, first sold, but they did allow us to put a hold on it with a handshake for approximately 10 days. So we wanted to get this to the board and get your thoughts.
One of my questions was that this vehicle is a 1999, and isn't the truck that we have 1998?
No.
Or what is it?
95.
Our current ladder truck is 1995. And our current truck has a 105 foot ladder?
65.
65.
Our current mileage, you said, was 67,000 as compared to 17,000 for this one?
Yeah, the mileage is the difference. I guess the biggest difference is the corrosion that's on these two trucks. If you want to compare what we currently have, these are the pictures that was taken of our other truck last year.
I didn't see any undercarriage pictures of that.
There's about 40 of them in there.
They were on the, yeah.
Like the frame rails. Well,
The frame rails are
frame
clean,
rails?
absolutely clean.
Maybe I didn't realize what.
You're going to see them here, but from the underside, you might have saw some by the exhaust, but I can tell you that there was zero rust anywhere on any of the brackets. The only thing we found, any rust that we showed you a picture of, was a step area that's pretty relatively easy.
Does it have some kind of spray coating on it, on some of this?
Underneath it, this is probably the ground, their blacktop, that picture. This is the one where we said there was some attention, but that isn't even serious. There's some more frame rail on the front, and some air tanks.
The air tanks are.
They all passed the DOT, and the inspector said that was just a routine surface. Yeah, I'm sure we had some.
Just how many
All right.
ladder trucks are?
Here's the frame rail from there, and that's just the mount for the. This is the underside of the turntable. You can see how clean that is. This truck was very well maintained. There's some to get it all at once.
Yeah, what's the story on that?
Um,
That's where I was wondering if
Yeah,
there was
we actually-
voting on that.
We actually didn't know the story on this, and we saw one that was kind of fuzzy. It's just a solenoid of some kind.
That is the primer pump motor. It's basically a starter motor on a primer pump, but it's in an area where you're gonna have oil getting added to the primer pump and stuff. When you're, filling it and stuff, it's highly likely that you're gonna have some oil residue, and I'm sure that's just dust on. They're in an area that have a lot of dirt roads that they're on and stuff, and, like I say, that was probably one of the most,
That was probably one of the only dirty.
one of the areas that was the most corroded on it, and like I say, it's basically just a small little starter motor is what it is. We actually have them on all the trucks, and we have a spare one in the back room to swap out when they burn out.
How many ladder trucks are in the area for the mutual aid?
How big of an area do you want?
Well, the mutual aid area, you consider,
The closest truck that had, this size is Stevens Point. Rudolph has one up in their Junction City station. Otherwise, the only ladder trucks that are in the area are all 100 and some foot tandem axle bucket trucks. Stevens Point has one. Rudolph has one. Plover has one. Wisconsin Rapids has one.
Rapids has one or
Yeah,
two.
one. But they're not even similar vehicles. They're, 12 feet longer, less maneuverable, a lot more limitations on where they can be utilized.
In addition to the one time that you described where the truck was used for Rudolph, are there some other recent examples you can give of when our ladder truck, how it would have been useful? Or was
We've
useful?
used it on, numerous fires.
All the patient off in training to get them in the ambulance.
Last month's training, we had to use it to take a patient off the roof on the house on Eagle Road. One of our firefighters had a medical problem up on the roof. We had to use that to get him off the roof. I guess we've used it on numerous chimney fires. We don't have a fire every day to use it on, but nobody does. It's a tool. It's a tool in the toolbox is what it is.
And you're not gonna be putting up carrying a 35-foot ladder and working off a ladder as safe as you are when you're strapped on the end of a stick like that. You have the water capability, you have tool capability. It's just a safer way to fight a fire.
Don't have the firemen on a roof that could collapse.
All right, so I'll open it up to public comment if the people wish. I did indicate that early in the evening that I would. Any board members first want to have a conversation before I open up to the public?
Yeah, I am on the fire department, and looking at the ladder truck, and I was definitely opposed to buying a brand new one. Just because of, when you're looking $750,000 for a piece of equipment, yeah, it would be nice, but, financially, that would be tough to swallow. But this truck here, I definitely think there's some opportunity now. We do use that ladder. It is part of our equipment. It's a part of our fleet. And, is it used on every fire? Absolutely not. But none of our trucks are. But it definitely has a purpose, especially with all the steel roofs we're getting now and more of the development that we are seeing in our neighbors. It definitely is a tool. Talk to some of the firemen, I didn't see it. These are, again, the first pictures I saw. It's a 10-year truck. This would, the one that we have, where we looked at putting $70,000 just into the rust and repair on it, and to get 5 years out of it, maybe, And this would extend the life. I think with that long-term 3 to 5 year plan, we do need a schedule for all our trucks. And that is, I believe, a very key point. And I think this is a good opportunity. Yes, it's gonna be a short window. I guess I'm not ready to vote on it tonight, but I wish we could sit around and talk, but we have to have a meeting about it.
No, we can leave this open as long as there's discussion. Are you done, or you want to release it to Bill if Bill's got comments?
We'll send her the bill.
For discussion purposes, I'll second your motion. Was that a motion?
No.
All right, comments from the floor, or that I can address, or I can ask the fireman, go ahead.
Again, Carl Harmon, 3140 Eagle Road. Looking at the pictures, it looks like a fairly nice used truck. Problem I see is it's 17 years old. I know how big equipment items depreciate, and I honestly think that this price may be a little high. I would be favorable at half this price. The other thing I could state is probably, without being out of the budget cycle, how to pay for it.
Mr. Chairman, if I understand you correctly, what the agenda item here is, if we were to decide to move forward with it, then we're going to need to budget it and with either debt service or something, but we would have to commit to that.
All right, we need to, let me go around, is there any other public comment? Go ahead. Sir, your name on the record?
Oh, Bob Bryant. The one difference between these two trucks, just for, that hasn't came out yet, the truck we have currently was Appleton Fire Department's truck. It ran every day. So that truck slapped and slushed and banged around in the salt each and every day, every single winter. That truck went on all medical calls. It went, this truck, like I said, is more similar to, their township is fairly similar to ours. This ladder that they're looking at in the pictures only left the barn for trainings and the 40 calls a year. That's why the frame and the running gear and everything on this 99 are so much better looking than the 4-year older ladder that you're looking at across the parking lot. Thank you.
Other comments? Go ahead, ma'am.
Oh,
I got you.
no, I didn't think you saw me. Gail Douglas, 3140 Eagle Road. They're selling this truck because they're buying a brand new one. But this one's supposed to be in good condition. Why are they selling it now? Why don't they keep it for a few years? Or if they got too much money where they can afford to buy a brand new one? I mean, why, if it's that good?
Yeah, we
I
can.
mean, why would they sell it?
Well, we're looking at it as, in this case right now, it is good. It's usable. However, if you saw any of the pictures that we took, it is severely rusted in the frame. It is subject to any time being put out of service due to the nature of it. We don't know if this year's DOT had passed the slider test, passed its bump test, and we can use it this year. But you don't know what next year comes along.
Are you referring to our current truck?
She's
She's asking about Campbell Sport. Do we
I'm
know
talking
why
about
Campbell Sport is buying a new
Why
truck?
would they sell it if it's still this good shape?
They have, let me tell you about Campbell Sport, okay? Campbell Sport is an aggressive committee. They intended this truck to be removed and replaced in 10 years. They got stretched to 15. Now they have a brand new ladder, which is actually longer, coming in, and it's going to be used that they are a fire district rather than a fire department. The difference there is they also have an ambulance service, and they run 2 ambulances, approximately 400 calls a year, and the revenue from there is enough to bring them revenue to modernize their fleet of fire trucks. So that's why they're removing it from service. They've absolutely said that everything that we saw in the records, absolutely great maintenance on it and nothing of any significance that made us think that this isn't even, I guess years ago you could have bought my mother's Buick, which was 10 years old already and had 1,100 miles on it. That was a pretty nice car too. So it's not always the age that tells you what you're buying. Other comments, Mike?
This truck is a used truck. I went over there, looked at it. I've been in the automotive business for 44 years. If we did a little bit of work underneath, take care of that rust, maintain the trucks like we maintain our trucks. Dan said he thinks 10 years. I think that's a 15-year truck. We could go to that new truck. That's a 30-year truck. It's a beautiful truck, brand new truck. But the price wise, you know, I mean, everybody seems to want to fight us on, or not fight us, but it's just, I understand everybody is concerned with money, but this is a safety item. This is something that, I work with these young firefighters. I don't want a guy that's gonna fall off a ladder that I've worked with and tell their folks, hey, sorry, so-and-so fell off the ladder. We had a young firefighter go up there, he's trained in everything, he felt very comfortable. His first time on a ladder, he pulled off slate roofing, he vented the roof in Rudolph, and he got the fire out. This truck is equipped with a hose line at the top, it's got tools at the top. It's not that like, oh boy, we want this next toy or something. This is a useful piece of equipment. Our ladder truck has proved itself. The truck is wearing out. This truck has got so many less miles. Underneath this truck is so much better. So, I mean, you really got a choice. You wanna get a used truck, sure, it's a used truck, something could go wrong with it. Or you wanna spend 3 times what that truck is, get a new truck, and you're gonna have a beautiful truck for 30 years. It's really up to, you know, but when it comes down to safety and things, we maintain our stuff. Go look at our trucks, they're clean. I have pride in the trucks over there. We wash and wax these trucks. We do maintenance on them, you know, every month. We do truck checks every month. This isn't something this isn't a game we're playing when we're putting out these fires with any of our equipment, so that's all I gotta say.
All right, anybody else? Chief?
I guess, you know, like you said, the reason this truck is being replaced, Caledonia is a very, Campbellsport is a very hilly area. They have a lot of their residences downtown. They have very steep driveways. They can't reach a lot of the roofs from the street. That's why they're going to a 105-foot platform truck so they can get the reach, so they can sit on the street and reach all the way into the houses that are going to, a lot of these houses are converting to metal roofs. You can't walk on the roofs anymore. They have no choice. We have the ability, most of our area is flat. We can back into the driveways. We can drive right up to the structures. It'll be more than adequate for 99% of what we need to use it for. Like you said, like Arnie said, Caledonia is on a very aggressive replacement schedule. Campbellsport, Caledonia. They're on a very, very aggressive replacement schedule. I wish we could be on it. That's what we're talking. We need to have a replacement schedule for these trucks. They have the ability to replace their trucks before they're in the condition that they're scrap. As far as the price of this truck, I greatly disagree with the thought that this is an overpriced truck. Anybody that's ever shopped for these trucks knows you get what you pay for. $125,000 truck, I'm sorry, is not out there. They're not functional. Their chances aren't even gonna pass their certifications. This truck, for the condition it's in, I guess the board members had asked, there was people that said there's gotta be something used out there. I've been looking for the last 8 months. This is the first used truck that was worth looking at anywhere around here. We had one other truck, it was a 2000, it was in Missouri, it was the closest thing. Didn't have the front suction, didn't have multiple things that we need to operate. This truck is set up, it'll serve the needs of our community. When you look at what is in this spec book for a brand new truck, there's only 2 items that are not on that truck that are in this spec book. And you got $500,000 less invested in it. I agree with Mike, this truck will service our town for 15 years. It's a very functional truck. I understand it came up, it popped up on my Chiefs network on Thursday afternoon. We looked at it Monday morning. I know it's short notice. The board asked me to find a used truck. I found a used truck for it. I don't believe you're ever gonna find a better conditioned truck at that price. You know, you're not gonna do it. You're not gonna find a truck that's functional for under $250,000. The other one that I said, the one down in Missouri, it was $317,000. It was 1 year newer and missing multiple major components that we need to operate in a rural setting compared to a hydranted municipal setting. So I guess, you know, whether you buy the truck or not tonight, I guess I encourage people to look at it. If you don't, I think you're throwing away a very good opportunity that you probably are never going to get again. If we lose this truck, I can guarantee our ISO rating will be changing, which affects everybody's house insurance. You know, there's things there's consequences to not having it in our arsenal. It's a tool, and like Mike said, it's a defensive tool. If you're using an aerial device, you are very much on the offensive, you know, or on the defensive, I should say. It's a defensive attack because you're either dealing with a major fire or a hazardous situation to get into. And I guess if you don't look at this, I guess I think you're throwing away a very good opportunity to, I mean, $250,000 won't buy you half of a brand new engine. The average new engine today is over $500,000. This truck is an engine with an aerial device that'll last 15 years. I think we'd be foolish not to look at it. And
William, wait a minute, let me ask Don, are you done then?
Yeah.
Okay, William?
So, why don't somebody just make a motion to buy it, or we can't make that motion?
Well, we can, but here's
Okay.
what I wanted to do is I wanted to get all the discussions out there. Somebody asked, how are you gonna fund this, right? Always the question, okay?
Yes.
This would not be purchased until April or May. That's when their new truck arrives, okay? Yes, we'd have to make a down payment to them to hold it, but it would not be in this year's budget, it would be in next year's budget. And as we talked about it over the budget periods of the last 2 years, the surplus in our reserve funds has been growing. It was my intention all along here to be able to pull at least $200,000 out of that line item and apply it to, at that time, thinking a new fire truck, which would lower the cost and make the payments. I believe that we could likely pull most of this out of reserves and possibly not even loan for any of the value. You know, we need to go through the whole budget process, but I think we need to acknowledge that we do have surplus money sitting in our reserves, higher than our typical $500,000 balance that we typically carry. Was that 7 something, Chris, am I correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So that, you know, that's how my intention is, well, where are you gonna find the money for it? I think I can find the money for it for next year's budget.
What was, I'm sorry, I
Go ahead.
didn't hear the figure.
I don't have the figure with me. Judy and I agree that it's somewhere around
It's
700,000. It's
700,000.
it's not an account that we just have, like, this money sitting in and there it sits. It kind of revolves around. It gets moved around, and at the end of when our audit, he tells us what our fund balance is.
If you looked at our audit report that we had, it was 7 something, I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly what it was.
Can I just say
Go
one
ahead.
thing? I do have an account at River Cities, it's a money market account, and it's on the back sheet that has $311,000 in it. I'll tell you that I have not touched this money, that has just been sitting in there, I put 200,000 or 300,000 in it several years ago. We've never pulled it out to do anything with it. So,
Good.
I'm just saying, we comfortably have some money to work with without having to borrow.
So the significance tonight is whether we do or don't make a commitment to Campbellsport, and then we determine in the budgeting process how we pay in 2015, other than whatever down payment that they're going to require.
Does anyone know the down payment?
No, they didn't even indicate it to us. They indicated if we gave them somebody down, it would be held for them. Held for us, I should say. So I would guess that we'd put down 50,000, 40 to 50,000 on it to hold it. I would think if we went ahead that process. Was there somebody else, other board that I saw hand, or did I miss? That was Mr. Head. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, in 10 seconds here, and I'll reserve the other minute and 50 seconds, I guess, in case somebody decides that this isn't a good idea. Maybe I can convince them, but yeah, I think this is a good idea. I'm trusting the board and the rest of our employees that they make these good decisions, you know. I mean, I trust you, you know, and I'm willing to pay for it, so.
All right, any other ones?
In the back.
Yes, Dan.
Dan Burrow, 7611 Grove Avenue. And what do you do with the 1995 truck? I mean, do you keep that or you just
Well, I guess,
sell it, or?
yeah, there is market for it out there. Obviously, like you say, with the corrosion issues on it, like you say, when you look at the pictures, I don't think it's gonna be a very big market. You know, the sad part about it is the truck from the road looks beautiful. If you're laying on the road looking up, it isn't so pretty. It could possibly sell, I guess. Like Arnie asked me the question. I guess my opinion is you'd be lucky if you got 20,000 for it. I don't think many departments are gonna buy it with the intentions of using it as a fire truck. Could it be used as a reserve ladder truck, kept until you have a major malfunction with it and get rid of it? Sure you could. And we've done that in the past with trucks. We've ran them until you have that major malfunction. If the radiator blows out on it, instead of investing $5,000, then you scrap it out at that time. You know, it's still, the aerial still passes. The problem with the aerial, as I explained, is it's no longer made. You can't find parts for it. Something as simple as a hydraulic line. You know, we have a hydraulic line that has to be replaced. We have to find somebody to manufacture a steel hydraulic line for it. They're just, the parts aren't there for that brand of aerial anymore. So, you know, it's, you know.
The other thing about this is a Pierce unit, and we all know that from our experience having Pierce trucks in here, they build good quality trucks. There is some extra warranty on the structural part of it yet that's still valid, was it?
The structural warranty on the truck is good until 2019, which is, you know, your torque box, you know, stuff like that. Your major components still have warranty on them until 2019. Like I said, this truck, when I checked with Pierce, they've had 2 warranty issues with it in the 15 years they've had it. You know, minor, very minor maintenance on it. I just think with, you know, with the reservation that there is some work to do on it. There's some things that we can do right now. I guess we kind of threw some numbers around, said if we invested another $15,000 or $20,000 into rust prevention activities right now, I guarantee you that truck will still be sitting here 15 years from now. If we catch the stuff now and take care of it. If you let it go, you know, it might catch up to the other one, but I just, like I said, I think it's a very, you know, as much as I, you know, as many hundreds of hours as we have invested in looking at a new truck, you know, this truck will serve the community's needs for a long period of time, and at a very reasonable, you know, rate.
Other comments? Ed?
We did this similar earlier this year with the grader, and look how that turned out. You know, I mean, you know, we aren't financially fortunate enough to just go out and write checks for brand new stuff. And when this stuff comes available, you have to act on it, because if we don't, somebody else will. You know, the grader, same thing. If we wouldn't have taken it, it would have been gone. And I think we are, I agree with the chief and I guess other members that we need to jump on this.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we purchase the 1999 Pierce ladder truck from Campbell Sport with the deposit as required by Campbell Sport, and the balance will be determined through the budgeting process how that will be paid.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion Kathy, second Dan. Further discussion from the board?
So we're saying that whatever deposit they would require would come from the general fund?
The contingency fund that you were describing earlier.
And the balance to be determined during budget time?
Through the budget process. We may determine that we can pay the balance through contingencies. We may determine that we'd be better off using debt service. We will know better in 2 months which is best fiscally responsible for the town. But I just think, since the second came through, I'm in my discussion now, that I just think we'd be foolish to pass up this opportunity, and we did ask him to try and find something used and try and not bring a full, brand new truck to this table and to have that conversation and that decision. And I would much rather have something that I don't need than to need something I don't have.
Quite frankly, we would have been at about $50,000 to $55,000 a year for the loan if we went to a new ladder truck, and I think we can extend this out. We can give us another 10 to 15 years at a very reasonable cost. Other comments, Bill or anybody else?
So your motion is to purchase this truck and to take it out of contingency?
The deposit that we're going to need to make is coming out of contingency, because we'll need to make a deposit.
And that's a simple majority.
Yes.
Right, to take money out of contingency to, okay.
As far as I know.
The reason for it is they actually aren't going to purchase it until...
No, I just asked, if to take it out of contingency.
Till April or whenever it becomes available, so...
we had that loan that's due October 10th for $212,000 approximately too.
That was budgeted this year.
Right,
Money's
but
there.
I mean, that's, okay, so that's not coming out of that 700,000.
Joe?
No, that's budget. And that's a payoff this year, isn't it? That one
Yes.
has less payments, so then that even opens up opportunity in 2015 if necessary.
We borrowed that and we got 311,000 back from the grant.
Okay.
Right. Motion made and seconded to go ahead and purchase or commit to the purchase of the 1999 Pierce Quantum ladder truck from Campbell Sport Fire Department at $250,000, which is the purchase price, but to make a down payment if they desire, if they require it, to come from the reserve funds. That'd be correct as stated. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Motion has been approved. All right, well, thank you for consideration. I want to thank the fire department personnel and everybody that put so much hard work in. And I did run the copy machine last night. It's my gig. All right, August disbursement vouchers. Questions on the vouchers?
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, can I ask just one quick question? And Bill, I know you'll correct me if I'm out of order, and then I will not ask it. But may I ask why the two of you were opposed to it? Didn't want to buy used, wanted to buy new,
I
didn't
don't
want to
think we
buy
need
truck
a
period?
ladder truck in the town of Cranberry.
Okay.
Right from the start. And we was told that we're not going to Indiana to look at new fire truck because the board hasn't approved it. And then all of a sudden, the board approved looking for a new ladder truck.
Okay.
I don't remember that.
I think.
I'm opposed.
Okay.
I just,
Okay, that's
I'm stopping right there.
That's what I wanted to know.
It's fine. All right, August disbursement vouchers. Questions? None?
I had none.
Okay, 23 operator license applications.
Yep.
We didn't get a addendum, did we, Judy? Just the three?
No, it's what's on the,
Okay.
it's just the formal sheet.
Sarah Bovee, Aaron Plater, Wesley Rogers, all been approved by the fire department for 1 year licenses.
The police department.
Police department, yeah. Got fire on my mind, don't I? Somebody want a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve Sarah Moby, Aaron Slater, and Wesley Rogers for 1 year.
Dan, motion Dan, second.
Awesome.
Patty, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. I'm an aye, any opposed? About the reports from committees, so first one will be Public Works. Well, two things there. As far as I know, Rick, equipment's all in good shape. We had a little trouble with the Kubota. We set it up and they got the pulsating of the engine resolved. Yeah,
Yes.
I know you worked it today,
We
so.
get into, they split the tractor, replaced the seal with it.
Yeah.
And our bigger tractor, did repair the wheel.
Right, so all the equipment is in good shape. I want to express my thanks to the fire department, also to Wood County Emergency Government, who helped us clean some roads so that we could get some power restored. We did actually put some part-time workers together that were fire department employees. I think we had a total of what, 24, 28 hours, somewhere there, Judy?
Yeah, 24, I think it was, at $14.93, I believe is the
Yeah.
part-time wage.
That helped us the first day or so until we were able to get emergency government staff on support. So our primary resolve was to first open up 32nd Street, and with the crew and the help of the fire department staff, we got that accomplished. Everything else is in order. We're still waiting for some of the bills to come in for the blacktopping work, so we don't know where we are there. Is there any questions on Public Works? Our one sign is up if anybody has not seen it, the blinking light on 48th Street. Trying to slow the traffic down. Plan Commission, Patty.
We met on August 28th, and we also met on 9/8, and we had, did the conditional use permit. We had the 2 public hearings this evening in regards to what we had discussed. And then we are keeping an eye on what Wood County is doing with the irrigation, waste irrigation. So we're waiting for them to, they're supposed to be meeting tomorrow night in regards to that. So the planning commission is keeping an eye on
Anything else?
that. That should be it.
Did you have a dog permit or was that canceled?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, the dog permit.
And you didn't approve that?
That was approved, yes, sir.
Okay. Public safety?
Mr. Chairman, there was one public safety meeting, I think I did report on that though, I'm not sure if it was at the last meeting, but it was when we held a meeting to initiate the strategic planning process, and we haven't had one since because we're waiting for the formation of the new committee, and so we will hopefully be scheduling that next week, Wednesday, the 17th, at the fire station.
Okay. Anything else?
Is that,
Nothing,
what time?
6:30.
Thank you.
Public buildings? Patty?
We had a draining issue with the women's bathroom, and that Rick had called someone in to get that fixed, and so that's working properly. And then also the cable, the boring under the driveway, the IT company came in, connected it today. They're still working on it to get some of the minor issues resolved in the communications for the internet service to the fire department. Apparently they are, the internet emails are coming to this building rather than out there, so.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, and then the light that is shining on the flagpole is broken with that, so we'll have to take a look at getting that repaired.
Okay. Any questions for public buildings? Economic development, Dan, I think you're scheduling a meeting, did I hear?
Economic development, yep, we got a meeting for September 24th at 6:30. We got representatives from Reggie coming in, gonna give us a little update on there. And we are gonna be talking to the snowmobile group, the snowmobile club, along with the neighborhood association, where particularly goes through, will be here and we'll be discussing alternatives or what the club's plans are for that path.
Did the owners, where the current snowmobile path is going through their backyard, have they come to a decision yet?
I don't know if they have, for sure.
Okay, will that
I've
be
heard both
discussed
ways,
at that meeting?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure I asked Dan to, firm that up for sure, what's gonna happen.
Okay, are they, do they plan on being at the meeting, do you know?
Who, the owners? No idea.
No?
So you said you plan on Dan being the attorney?
No,
What's going
no, Dan Guck. He's part of the snowmobile.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Carol Barrow, 7611 Grove Avenue, and our property is directly affected by what this snowmobile club might be presented. I just want to let you all know that on their website today, it's showing that they are looking at the area between our house and our neighbors as a proposal, and they're encouraging everyone in the 100 members of the snowmobile club to show up for that meeting on September 24th, or to call you board members to discuss it. That can't make it to that meeting, so just FYI.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we talked to the lady tonight where the snowmobile trail goes through now. She said that she is going to deny him access.
Okay, for this year.
Okay. All right, then anything else on economical development, Dan?
No, that
You,
will,
You gonna tie into the beer and business park or anything, or could we buy a piece of it and then it'd be ours too?
yeah.
No comment, huh?
No comment.
All right. William? Airport, I jumped over you earlier, I'm sorry. Airport Commission first?
We have a meeting on the 11th. We have that in.
All right. Now you might as well do that recycling.
Recycling and solid waste is, we're having our final choose to use on September 20th, 8 to 2 p.m. at the town garage on 28th and 2 Mile. And so far, there's a lot of stuff already in storage and in my garage, so looks like it'll be another exciting one. Too bad Dan's gonna miss it.
I told you I'd be there early.
Thank you.
Legislative committee, I guess we worked on a bunch of changes to the ordinance of those that we were able to complete or put in front of you tonight. We'll schedule another one in the near future and continue on our process to resolve. One of them that I am personally working on is the one that we are looking to have the groups that are having events and us register with us so that we know what's going on. And I did review the city of Wisconsin Rapids. Chief Peterson said he had preference to that. A lot of it I looked at looks good to us. Some things I didn't, so I'm working on doing some strikeouts in that, and then I'll get it to Judy to give a rough draft of some ideas of what we think, and then we'll throw it to everybody at legislative and pick it apart and go from there. Personnel committee.
No meeting scheduled.
Okay.
Everyone's doing well.
Any reports from other board members? Bill?
No.
Dan?
Just like I said, commend Don and Arnie, you for taking the time, fire department for going down and finding that truck, because that is a huge, huge opportunity for us. And we appreciate it.
Patty?
I was just wondering on the recycle and solid committee, or the letter that was supposed to be sent out.
It is out.
Okay.
Could,
You want a copy of it?
yes,
Well,
please.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought I emailed you guys copies of it.
I did not get a copy. Did anybody else?
I had some interaction between Dan and myself, so I had a copy of it, so.
I didn't have it, but I didn't ask for one.
The attorney
Oh,
who wrote it, and he asked me to confirm that the language looked good and pretty much was verbatim what you said, but we'll be sure to get your copy to you. What we basically asked them to is we're telling them that we're accepting their terms and we're asking them to put it onto a contract paper or basis, then come back to you.
thank you.
I have nothing else tonight, Kathy.
No, I have nothing else. I just want to commend Bill and his recycling and solid waste committee, because that choose to use is a good thing that I keep hearing from other individuals who are talking about coming and dropping off items, whether they're working or not working items. And if it's not costing the town money, I think it's great to keep doing that, getting those things off the roads and out of the ditches.
And just to remind people, next year it'll probably be $50 and $100 to get rid of TVs. $50 for anything under 27 inch and $100 for anything 27 inch and above. Right now it's 10 and 25.
10 to 25?
And they're giving us a deal. If you, and the money and the TVs go to ODC. But
Oh, and I can comment on that. My daughter worked at the ODC and I saw those individuals, my daughter as one of them, taking those TVs apart and what that does for them. It's
and
really
computers,
good.
of course, we take them free. And just if you have a gateway computer, that's probably the most valuable computer for ODC. They make a little bit of money on those gateways, but they make money on every computer. They take the gold out of it, the silver out of it, and they also recycle parts.
Okay, well, you were out of order, but I'll accept you being out of order.
I live at 1811 45th Street.
You didn't extend to the minute mark, otherwise you'd have got the hammer. All right, new item on the agenda is it's now printed, public input. Anyone wishing to address the board will be limited to 2 minutes each. Public input limited to a total of 60 minutes. Everybody wish to make some noise at us? Go ahead, ma'am.
Carol Darrell again, 7611 Grove Avenue. I just wanted to comment on this number 14 on the agenda regarding bull practicing in your backyard. If notifying your neighbors is not part of the state statutes, I would think that would be something that most people wouldn't be aware that they were supposed to be notifying their neighbors of a building. They're used to just both practicing in this area. Plus, it would be one person's word against the other if it came down to it, so I don't know how we would really enforce that.
Hey, Chief, are you up on that language? Wasn't the language saying that if you're shooting down, it was
And it was
considered
specific
hunting?
for hunting. Yeah, the wording in the state statute specifically addresses hunting. Without having the statute in front of me, I don't think there was anything in the statute pertaining to practicing, target practice.
And that's what we were struggling with, trying to
Yeah.
open it up for people to do.
Yeah, the state statute addresses hunting, not necessarily
practice.
practice.
Any other comments from the floor?
Mike Swankowski, Grand Rapids. I would just like to thank the board for approving the fire truck, and I think you're gonna be happy with the results.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr.
I thought I was gonna be the Lone Ranger tonight, but I did make a few comments. In closing, I thank you for that, moving that agenda item number 19 ahead. I'm not sure whether that got approved with the revision, including the revision, or revisions coming back for approval.
With.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, or item number 14. First of all, I appreciate the explanation, because I really wasn't picking up on that in there. And I think it really worked good when Patty, it's none of my business, I guess, how you voted, but I certainly appreciate the explanation, especially on the nays, and I thought it worked real good when you explained why you would be voting against it, and then I thought it worked really well when Judy explained, and I knew you were gonna vote yay, and you changed it, or I mean, you surprised me, but I appreciate that discussion, I guess, so. I also appreciate Kathy explaining why she was voting for the second motion when her first motion failed. That was on number 15. On number 16, there's lots of people on that committee, and I think that's kind of a costly thing, maybe. But I think you guys discussed that in the past. I'll follow up on that, but I'm willing to support that effort. I think it's something we need. And I sense there was an extra measure of courtesy and camaraderie and professionalism tonight, and that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's only a minute and a half, you did fine. Anybody else? Mr. Bowen?
I guess in regards to the 3 to 5 year committee, I guess when I mentioned to my officers that they potentially could get compensated for attending the meeting at the rate of $45, the majority of the officers that I talked to said the only way they would accept that is if it was put into our equipment fund, that is the dedication that these firefighters have towards the fire department, and I guess I would challenge anybody else to do the same with their per diems. That is the dedication that's there, so there will not be any expense from the fire department side of it unless it is put right back into our equipment fund.
I don't know if you get repeats.
Okay.
I don't think that's he put the period on it. Anything else?
Thank you.
And I do appreciate public input, let me tell you that. Anybody wishing to add anything to the next agenda? I know this one was jam-packed, but we did it pretty good, 2 hours. Some boards would take these items and would last them for 6 hours, including the Tullow Hall. Anything else? If not, there is the item number 28.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Dan motions to adjourn, second by
Patty?
Patty.
It's okay.
We'll give it to Patty today.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.